Sticking with Apple, our next guest believes the AI-driven supercycle is about to get underway for the mega-cap giant. Joining us to discuss, Dan Ives is Managing Director of Equity Research at Wedbush. It's good to see you.
Great to be here.
So a lot of things going on to sort of unpack there. But I guess before we jump into the supercycle, what do you make of these two specific events? Number one, the issues in Europe. Number two, the partnership with Meta.
I mean, Europe, it's like getting a cappuccino for Apple in terms of these fines. So I don't really view it.
10% of revenue is a cappuccino.
but realistically,
what's going to happen?
We're talking probably maybe $1 billion or $2 billion in terms of what they're going to have to pay. And I think the stock's telling you that, I think for Apple right now, they're at the top of the mountain because it's their castle. And we could have the EU issue and a lot of regulatory, and that's going to continue to be something that we see in the U.S. as well. But right now, they play chess. Others play checkers in terms of where they ultimately own the Apple ecosystem.
So what about the EU's claims? Do you think they are more legitimate than not? In other words, is Apple restricting or otherwise impeding individuals from leaving its app store and going to other providers?
Yeah, and I think Cook's talked about that. I think there is a plan where they could have some business model tweaks. But just like we've seen with the Epic lawsuit and ultimately what we'll see with some of the issues in the Beltway, Apple, it's a tight wire act that they're trying to walk. But it's their business model. They're going to continue to defend that, and they're not ultimately going to give in to the EU. They'll tweak around that. And I think the important thing here is that this is their ecosystem. The golden install base of Apple is not changing. And now you look at AI, the reason that Red phone's ringing and it's Zuckerberg on the other end, because for Cook, they recognize now Apple Intelligence, they have the keys to the castle. And I think, in our opinion,
Apple does.
Apple does.
Apple does, because they have the installed platforms, the installed base.
Well, they have 2.2 billion iOS devices. They have the App Store. So any developer, me and you, decide that we want to build an app, where are we building it? And it speaks, I think that's worth $30 to $40 per share. And this is the start of a renaissance of growth. I still think the street is underestimating this. A year from now, I think we're looking at a $4 trillion market cap for Apple.
So why do you think the phone is ringing again, kind of as it relates to Meta and Mark Zuckerberg? So let's kind of remind me where Meta stands. They've developed Llama. They have, leaned into AI, but in terms of its applications, it's seeing what? That its LLM is just valuable enough to plug into Apple's devices, or what exactly is the strategic move here?
Because the golden goose for them is that they want to get into Apple Intelligence. They want to get into this Apple layer where, just like what ChatGPT, what OpenAI did, they're at the top in terms of, for consumers, you got 1.5 billion.
But because
iPhones.
It would point back to Meta's products, or because they simply want to ultimately one day maybe be able to monetize that relationship?
Because that's going to be a highway for consumers to go back into their ecosystem in terms of Meta, and that's just more monetization, more engagement. Because right now, you're on the outside of this party that Apple is really going to run. And when you think about the AI revolution where we are, it's still, despite self and NVIDIA, it's 9 p.m. in an AI party that we see going to 4 a.m.